cold. Let us in. Come out and play with us.
The scream didn't sound human. It came from somewhere deep in the woods beyond the frozen highway, stretched thin by distance and snow. A sound dragged across the night like metal scraping ice. It lasted only a second, maybe two, but it was long enough to make Daniel slow his car. Snow fell sideways under the headlights, thick and blinding. The road had been empty for miles. No houses, no streetlights, just endless white swallowing black trees. Daniel eased his foot off the gas. The radio crackled once, then went dead. "Hello," he muttered, tapping it. Silence. The scream came again, closer this time. Daniel rolled down the window despite the cold slicing in instantly. The sound wasn't loud now. It wasn't even a scream anymore. It was a whisper. "Help me." His breath fogged the glass. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. There were no tracks in the snow, no signs of life. Yet the whisper felt near, too near, like someone standing just outside the car. Daniel locked the doors. That was when something knocked from beneath the vehicle. Not a bang. A deliberate tap. Once, then twice. And then, a voice spoke directly under his seat. "Don't leave me here." The headlights flickered, and the engine shut off. The scream didn't sound human. It came from somewhere deep in the woods beyond the frozen highway, stretched thin by distance and snow. A sound dragged across the night like metal scraping ice. It lasted only a second, maybe two, but it was long enough to make Daniel slow his car. Snow fell sideways under the headlights, thick and blinding. The road had been empty for miles. No houses, no streetlights, just endless white swallowing black trees. Daniel eased his foot off the gas. The radio crackled once, then went dead. "Hello," he muttered, tapping it. Silence. The scream came again, closer this time. Daniel rolled down the window despite the cold slicing in instantly. The sound wasn't loud now. It wasn't even a scream anymore. It was a whisper. "Help me." His breath fogged the glass. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. There were no tracks in the snow, no signs of life. Yet the whisper felt near, too near, like someone standing just outside the car. Daniel locked the doors. That was when something knocked from beneath the vehicle. Not a bang. A deliberate tap. Once, then twice. And then, a voice spoke directly under his seat. "Don't leave me here." The headlights flickered, and the engine shut off. Winter grew heavier. The streets outside Daniel's duplex seemed smaller, narrower, as if the snow piled itself just to press closer. Trees bowed under the weight, branches like skeletal fingers scraping the sky. Every night, the footsteps returned. Always the same rhythm. Slow, hesitant, patient. Bare. They never made a mistake. They never stumbled. Just paced the house like they had been walking its walls for decades. Daniel stopped trying to sleep. He started sitting by the window, staring at the white night, listening. The footsteps would circle the rooms, sometimes stopping, sometimes retreating. The voice returned too, sometimes at the doorframe, sometimes whispered through the vents, carrying a message he could barely hear. Words like, "Why did you leave?" "We waited, you saw us." Each phrase laced with disappointment and accusation. One evening, trapped in his living room by the storm, Daniel remembered the highway. He remembered the first night. The voice beneath the car. The small, childlike insistence. "Don't leave me here." He had convinced himself it was hallucination, stress, hypothermia. But the memory now twisted in his mind. Something inside him whispered. That night was not random. It wasn't coincidence. He had stumbled onto something older, something buried under decades of snow and silence. He started researching the local archives. Local newspapers from decades ago described the Dead Mile, a stretch of road infamous for disappearances. Children vanished during blizzards. School buses lost control. Pedestrians never found. The articles were dry, factual, impersonal. But one detail lingered like frostbite in his mind. Witnesses mentioned hearing voices in the wind, children crying, asking for help, but no bodies were recovered. None. The disappearances had stopped in the late 1980s, but the records hinted at something persistent, a remnant that winter could not bury. At home, Daniel's life began to fracture. The first night he found the small footprints near his kitchen sink. He scrubbed them away, convinced it was snow blown in from the vent or a loose cat wandering inside. But the next morning, new prints appeared. They crossed the living room, entered the bathroom. They stopped at his bedroom door. No pattern, no explanation. One afternoon, while making coffee, Daniel noticed his reflection in the window. He froze. Behind him, a shadow moved. He spun. Nothing. Just the steam rising from the cup. He checked every corner, every closet. Empty. But the feeling stayed, a pressing presence that made his chest tighten. At work, colleagues noticed his agitation. His eyes darted to corners. His hand shook. But no one could understand what he was fighting. The winter storm outside mirrored the storm in his mind. Cold, unrelenting, impossible to escape. One night, Daniel woke to the soft sound of breathing in his bedroom. The rhythm was steady, measured, human, but it wasn't his own. He whispered, trembling, "Who's there?" Silence. Then, closer, almost intimate. "You didn't see us properly." Daniel bolted upright. The closet doors had not moved. The window was shut. But the voice had been inches from his ear. He never slept in his bedroom again. It was after the third week of isolation that he encountered her. The old woman outside the grocery store. She didn't smile, didn't flinch. Her eyes were pale, unblinking, as if she had been waiting. "You heard them," she said. Daniel froze. "They don't let go once you answer," she continued, voice low, urgent. "Winter keeps what it takes." "What do they want?" he whispered. "To be seen," she said, then shuffled away into the snow. The phrase lodged itself in Daniel's mind. To be seen. That night, he understood it. Not all ghosts demand vengeance. Some demand recognition, validation, observation. And he had seen them. That night on the highway. Their cold bodies. Their hollow eyes. Their voices. He had answered whether he realized it or not. And winter had kept him ever since. The manifestations became bolder. Objects moved slightly out of place. A chair turned just enough that it faced the corner of the room. A lamp tilted as though watching him. Doors locked themselves mid-step. Windows froze over from inside. Ice forming in intricate, unnatural patterns. Whispered warnings in his own voice echoed back at him. "Don't leave us." A distortion of his own guilt or something older. Daniel began documenting everything. Every sighting, every whisper, every mark in the snow or on the floor. It was futile, of course. Writing didn't stop them. It didn't explain them. It only captured the mounting dread. One night, he tried recording audio, desperate for proof. He left the recorder on while he slept on the couch, fully clothed, eyes wide open. Morning revealed a series of static-laced whispers, a chorus of children repeating, "You left us. You left us." Some of the phrases were his own voice. But he had never said them. Daniel began questioning his sanity. Shadows stretched where they shouldn't. Snow fell silently inside the apartment. He awoke to frost etched on the walls in strange patterns. 4 handprints. Small. Child-sized. Neighbors noticed. One called, concerned. Daniel, trembling, laughed nervously. "It's nothing," he said. But when he hung up, the shadow in the hall seemed to lean closer. Watching. Waiting. The snow outside the window fell heavier, almost purposeful, like a tidal wave frozen in place. Voices became less patient, more insistent. Sometimes they whispered in different tones. Desperate, pleading, accusatory. Always at night. Always when he tried to ignore them. One night Daniel whispered aloud, almost daring himself. "What do you want from me?" The reply came from the air around him, impossibly soft. To be seen fully. He felt a brush along his ankle. Bare feet, warm despite the winter cold. He jumped, turned, and there was nothing. A week later, the storm hit with violence. The power went out. He had candles lit in the living room. Shadows danced across the walls like elongated specters. The footsteps came again, inside, around, behind him. "You're ours now," a voice said, close, whispering. Daniel froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The voice, or voices, multiplied. A chorus, small, fragile, accusing. "You saw us. You left us. Now you follow." A hand. No, multiple hands, brushed against his shoulders, his back, lingering just long enough to chill him to the bone. Daniel tried to speak, to explain, to plead. "I didn't know. I didn't." A whisper overrode him. "You always know." That was when he realized the truth. Winter wasn't just a season. It wasn't just cold or snow or storms. It was the medium. The highway, the house, the duplex, all conduits. They could reach him anywhere winter touched. They had been waiting decades. And he had walked straight into their grasp. He understood now why the old woman had warned him. They don't let go once you answer. Daniel's world narrowed. He avoided leaving the apartment. Work became optional. Food came from grocery delivery. But even inside, he wasn't alone. At night, he could hear the children speaking. Sometimes accusing, sometimes curious. Sometimes soft, almost pleading. "You left us. Why did you stop? See us?" Every sound, every shadow, every snowflake became a reminder. They existed everywhere winter touched. They were inevitable. He could not reason them away. Logic failed. Observation failed. Faith failed. He began marking the days on the walls. Not numbers. Names. Words. Messages scratched into plaster. "You saw us. You left. Winter keeps." He no longer spoke to anyone. When the phone rang, he didn't answer. When neighbors knocked, he ignored them. Reality itself had become secondary. Only the winter, the waiting, the seeing mattered. A week before the full storm, the voices became impatient. They stopped pacing. They hovered. They breathed. One night, Daniel opened his eyes to see small faces, pale, staring at him from the corners. Not blurry. Not imagined. Staring. Watching. Waiting. The snow outside fell sideways, as if blown by some unseen force. The world beyond the apartment became unknowable. And inside they pressed closer. "You saw us," they said. One voice, many voices, a singular accusation. Daniel screamed. Not in fear. Not in pain. In realization. He had crossed the line. He had acknowledged them. And winter, patient and eternal, had decided it was time to collect. The snowstorm hit like a living thing. Blinding white hammered against Daniel's apartment windows, rattling the panes. The world outside was erased. Streets vanished. Trees became black smears against the white. Wind howled in tones that almost sounded like laughter. Inside, Daniel's small duplex had become a cage. Footsteps. Always footsteps. They circled him now with precision. Bare, patient, intentional. But tonight they were faster. Louder. More insistent. He could hear them pacing the walls above, below, through the floors. Every room in the apartment became a labyrinth of cold, invisible watchers. Daniel crouched in the corner of his living room, knees drawn to his chest. Candles flickered, shadows leaping like wraiths across the walls. The voice came first, low, calm, accusing. "You came back." He swallowed, trying to steady his breath. "I didn't. You saw us," it interrupted. "And now you belong to winter." Daniel felt a pressure in the air, heavy, suffocating, like snow pressing down from above. He bolted toward the bedroom door. The hallway stretched impossibly long. His apartment warped, corners bending inward. Each step he took echoed like hundreds of small, thin voices whispering, "Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave." The door at the end of the hallway, normally locked, hung ajar. A faint light glimmered inside. Not from a bulb, but from the snow itself, glowing cold and blue. And he saw them. Small forms, pale and delicate, standing silently in the bedroom. Faces frozen in frost. Hollow eyes reflecting nothing, yet piercing him as if they had read every thought, every fear. Hands pressed to their sides, waiting. Daniel froze. The candles guttered. A breath of wind, too cold to exist indoors, rippled across his skin. "You left us," one voice whispered. Closer now, inches from his ear. "I didn't." Daniel tried to speak, but no words came. The figures stepped closer. Every movement precise, unnatural, yet childlike in posture. Their eyes glimmered with accusation. One extended a hand. Small, ice cold. "You have to see," it said. The apartment shifted around him. Walls lengthened, ceilings rose, then fell. Doors appeared where none had existed. Windows multiplied. Shadows thickened. He was trapped in a space that obeyed no rules. Time stuttered. Minutes stretched into eternity. Seconds collapsed. Daniel stumbled back, heart hammering, chest tight. "I saw you. I saw you," he shouted, desperation raw in his voice. "I'm sorry." The figures froze. Then they smiled, not sweetly, not warmly, but thin, knowing, eternal. "You see," they said in unison. "You answered." One reached out and touched his arm. The cold burned through layers of clothing, past skin, into bone. Daniel screamed. He spun, tried to pull away. But every escape route was gone. Hallways looped back on themselves. Furniture rearranged itself, forming barriers, cages, traps. He fell to the floor. The snow, somehow, had invaded the apartment. Soft flakes drifted across the carpet, pooling into small mounds that looked like tiny graves. Shadows moved in them. Faces appeared briefly, then vanished. "You hear us now," another whispered from beneath the floorboards. Daniel clawed at the carpet, at the walls, at the air itself. The voices multiplied. One voice, two voices, dozens, all overlapping. "You left us. You saw us. You belong to winter." He collapsed on the couch. The forms gathered around, silent now. Watching, judging. The air smelled of frost and old wood. It pressed against him, heavy and real. He couldn't breathe properly. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. I'll do anything," Daniel stammered. "Just leave me alone." A pause. Then one figure leaned close. Its eyes glowed an icy blue. "You can't leave," it said. "You never could." The apartment shuddered. Candles blew out. The walls bled shadows. Windows shattered inward. The snowstorm poured in like water, freezing instantly, piling over him, burying him alive in seconds. The children's voices rose to a crescendo. "You answered. You saw. You left. You belong." Daniel's screams merged with the wind outside. Time fractured completely. He saw flashes, roads, white and empty. A car stalled in snow. Children waiting. Faces pale. Eyes empty. And he remembered the highway, the first night, the voice beneath the car. It had never ended. It would never end. The figures pressed closer. One whispered directly in his ear, "Winter keeps what it takes." And Daniel understood. He had crossed the line the moment he acknowledged them. There was no running, no hiding, no escape. Winter, patient, eternal, had claimed him. The forms merged into shadow, into snow, into nothing. And still, the whispers continued, lingering in his mind long after the physical presence was gone. He was alone, yet never alone. Trapped, yet free to move. Living, yet already consumed. He fell silent. The apartment was still, but the cold remained. The snow outside fell relentlessly. Every gust of wind carried the whispers, repeating endlessly, "You saw us. You belong to winter." When the storm finally ended, the world outside Daniel Harper's duplex looked untouched. Streets glimmered white. Trees sagged under soft layers of snow. The sun peeked faintly, pale and distant. Nothing seemed wrong. Nothing seemed missing. The wind had stilled. The footsteps had stopped. Except for Daniel. He did not emerge. He did not answer the phone. The neighbors reported no unusual sounds, no lights flickering, no signs of struggle. Yet his apartment remained empty of warmth. Windows were frost-coated. Walls cold to the touch. Chairs had shifted slightly as if someone or something had moved them. Small, faint handprints lingered on the windows, slowly fading as the sun melted their icy outlines. Inside, the apartment felt alive. Not in the way a home is lived in. Alive in the sense that it breathed and watched, patient and eternal. Shadows seemed to curl toward the corners of the rooms, clinging to walls and furniture. Every creak in the floorboards, every hum of the heater, every soft drip of melting icicles outside carried the memory of that night. Daniel had survived in one sense. Or perhaps he had not. When emergency responders eventually found him, hours, maybe days later, they could not tell how long he had been unconscious, curled in a corner with his coat still on, eyes wide open, staring at nothing. He spoke little. Only murmurs at first, incoherent phrases caught between sobs and whispers. They see me. Winter keeps. I left them. Weeks passed. He tried to return to life. Work. Grocery runs. Emails. Friends. Each attempt collapsed under an invisible weight. Snow falling outside brought visions of small, hollow-eyed faces at the edge of his perception. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms. Voices whispered from vents, radiators, beneath the floor. Even silence carried accusation. Daniel tried to rationalize it. Therapy. Meditation. Medication. Nothing worked. The entities, the children, the voices, the winter, had followed him everywhere. Their presence was no longer physical. It had become embedded, threaded into his perception, stitched into his mind. He could see them in reflections, hear them in the soft rustle of papers, smell them in the chill of the apartment. He tried to flee. He tried to hide. He tried to ignore. Winter does not forgive ignorance. Months later, Daniel moved into a larger apartment in a new town. A safer building. Thick walls. Central heating. Security cameras. It did not help. The voices followed. The footprints returned. One morning, he woke to find frost lining the baseboards in intricate tiny shapes. Children's faces frozen mid-scream. He swore he saw small figures peering around corners when he passed, vanishing when he looked directly. At night, snow blew against the windows. Heavy, fast, determined. And through the howling wind, faint whispers called his name. Sometimes accusing. Sometimes pleading. Always insistent. You saw us. You left. Now you belong. He spoke to no one about it. Any attempt to explain, police, neighbors, friends, met disbelief. And yet, every night, the shadows in his home thickened, his apartment shrinking around him. His mind became a battlefield. Paranoia gnawed. He could no longer tell reality from hallucination. Every snowflake, every gust of wind, every creaking radiator was a reminder. Winter had a memory, and he had answered. Daniel tried rituals, candles, prayers, even lines drawn in salt along doorframes. Nothing stopped them. He tried locking himself in rooms, barricading doors. Still, footsteps would circle, sometimes soft, sometimes urgent, outside the barrier. Voices seeped through. One evening, he awoke to the softest brushing on his shoulder. Bare hands, icy and fragile. He turned. Nothing. Only a snowflake drifting slowly from the ceiling. He followed it to the window. Outside, the world was empty, perfect, still. But for a moment, just for a heartbeat, he swore a small shadow waved at him from the edge of the sidewalk. He tried to speak. What do you want from me? The whisper returned immediately, inside the room, behind his ear, in the echo of his own heartbeat. To be seen fully. He understood then. It was never about leaving, escaping, surviving. It was about acknowledgement, seeing, remembering. And he had seen them. He had answered. And now winter claimed him, not as punishment, but as destiny. Inevitable. Inescapable. The neighbors rarely saw Daniel. When the mailman came, he would find the apartment dark, curtains drawn. Occasionally, small footprints, bare, childlike, impossible, traced paths across the snow outside the door. Sometimes, the faint sound of laughter, high-pitched and distant, drifted from the apartment vents. Those who visited once never returned. At least, not the same. They spoke differently. Eyes hollow. Expressions tight. They didn't speak of the apartment. But sometimes, long after, they shivered at the first snow of winter. And they remembered, without wanting to, that children's voices sometimes ask questions in the wind. Daniel Harper exists now in a space between worlds. Alive in one sense, consumed in another. He moves, but only within limits dictated by winter itself. Every snowfall, every blizzard, every icy gust reminds him. He belongs. He saw them. He cannot unsee. He cannot leave. The apartment remains. Silent. Cold. Watching. Waiting. Footsteps echo inside even when no one is home. Shadows shift slightly always. The faintest brushing of fingertips appears on glass. Frost forms intricate, ephemeral faces. And somewhere deep in the wind, voices call again. You saw us. You left. Winter keeps what it takes. The final horror is quiet, unassuming. It is the knowledge that some nightmares do not end, do not fade. They wait patiently, buried under snow, beneath ice, within the whispering winter. And if you see them, if you acknowledge them, you belong. Winter always keeps what it takes.